You wanted me to take out mannequin though on each of them because it really doesn't, or live.
Except for 4.22, it has
Exactly.
to stay live.
Okay. Okay, so we'll leave the 4.22 and the rest is good, and we won't add anything. We'll just refer to the skills exam, except for 4.22, right?
Well, the skills exam also will have the steps they need to do for correct administration.
Okay.
So.
Work on this, okay?
Yeah, and I can look over it with you later.
Okay.
What? But that's basically right.
Okay.
So now left is suturing.
Yes.
We did not ask about things to monitor while and after administering an IV, and I do think that might be kind of important to ask. What do you guys think? Like you need to monitor for lung sounds.
Redness at the site, swelling, lack of flow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, swelling, infiltration, signs of anaphylaxis, level of consciousness, lung sounds. So if we could add something about what to monitor while administering an IV and immediately after.
Yeah, did it not mention complications somewhere?
Yeah, it did, but that's different than what should you be monitoring.
That's true, I suppose.
And you should also be monitoring the patient for desired outcomes. If I was giving them pain medication, they should be in less pain.
Yeah, if you're giving them oxytocin for hemorrhage, hopefully the hemorrhage is starting to slow down. I added that to my list. That's very clever of you, Greg. I have a whole long list, but that's not one of them.
So, Holly, do you want to work on this with me?
Yeah, of course, because I have a nice long list.
Okay. So what, describe what to monitor while administering an IV and immediately after.
Mm-hmm. Something like that. We'll work on it.
Okay. And that was the only thing we needed to add on that section then?
Go back up. I saw it twice now, something called optimal sites. What are optimal sites?
Well, in our world, optimal for shock is the AC because it's easy to hit, gets the fluids in quickly. But for prophylaxis, you'd want something that's not bendy, so it would be hand or arm. That's what we mean.
4.18 says list actions to take to prevent injection when administering. Infection?
Infection.
Okay, so it wouldn't be optimal site then. I think they're looking for the word op site, you know, the sterile covering that you put over the injection site.
Oh, I bet that is what she means there.
Yeah,
Can you say that again, Greg?
It's just called, I'm sure it's short for something, but it's called an op site. It's
OP-SITE.
Yeah.
Op site or other cover.
Sterile.
Yeah, sterile cover.
Op site or other or it's hard for me to hear. I'm sorry, you guys.
Or
I mean,
or other
above it.
I'm sorry, what? Julia, what?
It already lists sterile barriers right above it.
Okay. An op site is a sterile barrier.
So maybe sterile barriers, including op site.
Perfect.
And then obviously we'd want to have sterile technique. The third bullet point, Cerinthia, can be sterile technique. We can just leave it at that.
Okay.
So sterile technique, we mentioned earlier that we're only using alcohol swabs. Sterile technique is technically betadine and alcohol.
Right.
Yeah, we would say sterile technique, like it's like a sanitary technique, but we don't use sterile gloves, like it.
Joe, sure, it's clean.
Yeah,
it's clean. That's sterile. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could put sterile in quotes and then in parentheses put clean.
I would just remove sterile and replace it with clean.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, sterile denotes draping and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Techniques? Or
Sure.
technique?
I don't think it's that essential, whether it's more than one. It is more than one thing we're doing. So,
Okay.
right.
Okay. Moving on.
Suture, suture, suture.
Okay, before we end, one of the things that we need to add and talk about is devices. We talk about legend drugs everywhere, but nowhere is it listed devices.
Well, we have discussed devices and that we've talked about in what we've already done. We talked about syringes, we talked about needles, we talked about equipment. So the needles and the syringes are the devices. We've talked about the supplies for the IVs, the catheters and the bags. All of those are the devices. So far we have been talking about the devices as we go through. With suturing, the suture material itself is a device.
But what about the list? Like, let me pull up the rule here.
We may have to add some things to that for sure from that.
Hang on, I'm pulling something up here.
You might look at the list might need updated.
Is this something we could table till next time, Cynthia?
Oh, yeah.
Let's
It
do
seems
that.
like it would be a really quick addition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd like to move as fast as we can or get a little further into, because see what we've got here, the syringes, the needles, the drip sets, the catheters. We haven't done resuscitation yet.
Well, I mean, we talk about oxygen, don't we? Isn't it
Yeah,
listed?
oxygen devices we talked about.
So we'll talk about that stuff. So
And
I
some
think
of these are not legend. You can get a BVM set without a authorization. Anybody can get one of those.
yeah, I think
This
the
was to make it easier for us to get them.
Hook might be the only one we don't really stress in LD&D.
Yeah, amni hooks. Yeah.
So maybe you and I, Holly, or even Julia, when we're talking about our areas, maybe we could just kind of figure out where we need to add these.
Yeah, because suction devices like Delis and stuff are not legend. You can get a bulb syringe at the, Rite Aid. So
within rules, do the approved devices need to be removed?
no, because it makes it easier for us to get them.
Oh, gotcha.
But I think pretty much all of these things are already going to be covered, except a couple of the things specifically for resuscitation, which are not legend, and the amni hook, which I think you can get amni hooks as a midwife without anything. I know.
I mean, it's just
Go ahead, sorry. So, Julia, we'll just talk about where to add these, or is that, are we good with that, or?
yeah, we can talk about it for sure.
Okay. And then we can move on. Because you're right, I think you're right. It's going to be a pretty easy fix.
So my first question out the gate here is, how much basic female pelvic floor and genital anatomy do we really want to be covered by the student, and how much are we intending to ask about on the test? Because when it comes to suturing, you're not able to discern layers of muscles or even types of muscles very well. It's a much more straightforward skill than the subtleties involved here. So just, thinking about, I don't want to even touch this with a 10-foot pole, because Anne Fry has a multi-chapter explanation of basic female pelvic floor and genital anatomy. So if what we mean by what is a perineum, what is a vaginal floor, what is a clitoris, what is a labia, if that's what we're talking about and we want to call that basic, I can do that. But if we're talking pelvic floor anatomy with all of the muscles and all that stuff. How much of that do we want to go into? Thoughts? Please share.
I think that anything that we're referring to in this document should be listed there. Like if we're going to have words like perineum and things like that, it should, be listed.
Muscle, that there are muscles and skin. That's a really good way of doing it. Who would like to volunteer to work on that? Desi, who opened her mouth and made a suggestion.
I'm happy to. I just worry about having enough time to get this back to Sarinthia before our next meeting. But I'm happy to work on it, just with the caveat of, I may not be
make a
complete.
stab at it, and then you look over it and see if you think it's too much or not enough.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Ooh, it's a cooperative venture.
Perfect. Okay.
I feel like it could also be something that once the other pieces are complete, we just go through and all of the anatomy that's listed, we just.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be really simple.
Yeah, that's my hope. Since you worded it that way, that's why I think I can do it pretty straightforwardly.
Okay. Perfect. 5.2, list methods of preventing perennial damage. Perennial, sorry. Perennial. Whew, it is.
If we're going to keep this list, I'd like to see the word appropriate in front of perineal because, there's a lot of, no, not there, down on the bullet point. Sorry, my bad. Because there's some evidence that shows that perineal massage can cause more damage than not. So, and there's also evidence that leaving well enough alone has the best outcomes, especially for multips. So,
and it has its time and place, and you don't necessarily want to do it on every client.
Absolutely correct.
Do we need to define this list here, or maybe make something another bullet point?
Maybe say preventing perineal damage in certain situations or something like that, or in some situations. Up above after the 5.2, honey. List methods for preventing perineal damage.
When indicated.
When indicated. There you go.
Very good.
So we use any type of lubricants?
Yeah, lubricants are part of the perineal massage.
Okay.
We could add use of lubricants, which is another thing that a lot of us are moving away from. But turns out they make their own lubricant if you don't wipe it away.
Yep.
All right. Skin and tissue directly beneath the skin of the perineum, skin and muscle of the perineum into the vagina, perineal tear muscle around the anus, through the muscles around the anus into the, that should say mucosa, M-U-P-O-S. Mucous membranes that lines the rectum, and also the muscle of the rectum as well.
I am going to have to step out. My clients are here for their 2:00 appointment. So sorry, guys.
No, we're almost out of time anyway. Should we just stop here, Sarinthia?
Yeah, we're going to need to because we don't have a quorum. And so we're just going to have to stop. And so we'll just work on, I think this one is pretty clear. And so it's not going to be a lot, but we can talk about it, Holly, and I'll work with each of you on it as well.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
It's been great seeing everybody. I feel super excited. We've gotten a lot done and everybody contributed a lot.
Thank you, Desi. I appreciate your
Thank
time.
you. Yep.
Thank you all.
Have a great day.
Okay.
Good day, everyone.
Bye.
Ciao.
Okay, bye, you guys. I'll be in touch soon. Thank you again.